Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Anna, and today I am here with Anna Vervarcke, and she is going to go over her map that she has created, and she's going to be discussing how you can look at it and how it can help you with your homeopathic remedy. So thank you so much, Anna, for being here. And I have to say that I use this all the time with patients. So this is such a helpful tool that you've created.
Okay, that makes me happy. That is useful because that's of course the purpose of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I will explain a little bit how I came to it and how it is conceptualized. So working on a computer program, like a software tool to help homeopaths in their analysis, and which is called the Family Finder, I wanted to give the main characteristics of the groups, the families and subgroups and all that, and what is known and what is lesser known and well known, and gradually studying all those cases and looking up all this information and throughout the time seeing my patients, it became clear to me that you can make more divisions than like minerals, plants, and animals. These were like the main kingdoms that we used to divide our patients in one of those groups, or sometimes also nosodes, although there's still homeopaths who don't consider like a nosode as a constitutional remedy, as a remedy you can have as you know, like your sensation can be a nosode, but of course it can. Any remedy can be a constitutional remedy, any remedy. I never make distinctions between small remedies and big remedies and common and rare. If it's a rare one and it's your one, it's a big one. That's for sure. So what occurred to me that a lot of patients that sound mineral might not need a mineral in the sense that we use mineral as elements. So we say mineral, but actually we by saying mineral we mean an element which is a single element, or in some cases a compound. That's a combination between two, and in very rare cases we have like compounds with 3 elements. But basically, there are single elements, and we've familiarized ourselves with it the last decades with the periodic table, and everybody knows how to use it. It's a very, very, very useful thing. But then we have these distinctions or these remedies that we don't know where to put. Like if it's not an element, but it is a carbon compound, where are we going to put them? Or we have a sarcode. Sarcode is a group. Now, where does the group belong? Is it third dimension, second dimension? We don't know. I'll explain dimension in a minute. We have gemstones. They sound like minerals, but they're not minerals. So my conclusion is we need to make the first big division before we differentiate further. Otherwise, the groups are like scattered all over and we don't see the relationship. So the idea of the map was to see the relationship between those groups, because that's important in the sense that then you know what to differentiate, because what is similar and what is dissimilar completely. So if you, for the first analysis, know for sure you have to look in the second dimension or in the third dimension, that cuts your possibilities in half. So that's, I think, a big help. And then, you know, you have the horizontal rows. I'll come to that in a minute. And then that cuts your possibilities in even lesser groups, maybe only 3 or 4 instead of all those that you can see on the map. And also you see the relationship. So first and second and third dimension is basically a new concept that I think is useful because there are overarching characteristics that you can find in all those groups that you find on your map on the left page, and in all those groups you find on the groups on the right side. What is the second dimension? Well, it is the dimension between the first and the third. So of course, all of this is, you know, it's how can I say, it's a kind of a scheme, it's a representation, it's something that is useful. You don't have to take this all too literal. But the second dimension represents the world under our feet. That means everything you can find in the earth, in the deep biosphere, and these are the elements, the ores, the rocks, the stones, the the hydrocarbons, and also the bacteria, because under our feet is a real laboratory of life. There are the building blocks of all we can find on the surface of the earth, which is 3-dimensional. We live in a 3D world. With I mean us humans, and we share this world with plants and animals. Under our feet are the building blocks of all the life forms on the surface. I also put a few other groups like sarcodes, and you could argue like sarcodes is a human or an animal tissue or organ, and shouldn't it be on the 3rd dimension, but as a simple structure, like it's not the whole, but it's a part of it. It is in itself like a simple organism, and more simple organisms, according to me, belong to the 2nd dimension. So there you find in the upper box the keywords that belong to the whole group. And the keywords are on different levels. The first word is emptiness, which is the basic sensation of all elements, which in a sense is true. Element is basically empty space. It will be a question of existence. The 2nd dimension person will experience himself, his life, as an existence, while the 3rd dimension, animals, plants, and fungi, will experience their life as life or as survival, which is a different thing. We all live, we all die, and yet we have this different experience of how life is. And 2nd dimension is all about my existence. I exist, what about my existence? Usually your 2nd dimension cases are more simple compared to the more complex 3rd dimension, and very often there's only one issue or one problem. It's more factual, it's more sober, it's less emotional, you could say. The 3rd dimension is all about emotions and feelings, and so it's more, you could say, a bit distant, a bit aloof, a bit sober, and the things at stake, the issues will be my capacity, can I or can't I, and it will be about function, it will be about role, it will be about value and meaning. And what they need is they want to have grip, or they are afraid to lose grip on whatever they need to be okay. And it's in general about dependence, while the 3rd dimension groups are much more independent. Now, if you see the map in one glance, you could think of it as a map of the world, if you want, and the 2 dimensions are like 2 continents. There are only 2 continents on this homeopathic planet, so that makes it a bit easier. So to start with, if you're at least at the right continent. I mean, if you start to make an analysis, or you start to dig for the treasure, as I usually say, you have to dig for the treasure. And if you're in the wrong continent, well, the task is hopeless. You will never arrive at it. So I think it's very important to be clear from the beginning, or at least throughout case taking, where your patient is belonging to. Which continent does he belong to? If you make that clear, if you can make that clear, then, and again, you see it in one glance, you have like the 7 horizontal rows, and we are familiar with it because of the periodic table. That's why I use them, because we don't need new concepts when we have already concepts in place that work well and everybody knows. So the periodic table represents from horizontal row 1, the coming into the world, not in the world yet. It's about incarnation, but not there yet. And then going through or the developmental stages of the next rows. It's like the life cycle of one person, ending with row 7, which is disintegration and the end, you know. So we are familiar with the second row, that is like the baby being born. The third row, it's like the child growing up and the identity is formed. The fourth row is all about going into the world and sustaining yourself. The fifth is doing something special, being unique, not being like everybody else, like sticking out. And the sixth is all about mastery, mastering yourself or mastering the others, and take responsibility and give the example for the others. While the seventh is disintegration. Under too much pressure, they disintegrate, and it's the end of it. So if you see the map, the rows are from left to right on the second and the third dimension. That means if you're not sure about the dimension, which can happen, because we have those groups that put you on the wrong leg because they seem to combine characteristics of both. For instance, the gemstones, they have the context of the second dimension. I mean, they look like, or they present themselves, so they present their case and their complaints as a second dimension person, yet their issues seem to be third dimension. Third dimension issues are all about relationships, about feelings, emotions, affections, so that you don't know which one to choose. But at least you can, in your case, conclude that it is a fourth row issue, that the issues belong to the fourth row. So again, even if you're not sure and you have to go from left to right and you don't know about the continent yet, you know, it's at least on this orbit or this circle that you have to find something. Whether it's, you see on the left side, where under the word civilian, it's an element. Then you have 18 choices on the fourth row. You find their sarcodes, you find gemstones, monocot, fish, and snakes. Still have a few groups to consider, but not like all the remedies of the materia medica. And then, I mean, to get confused between a snake and a fourth row mineral, you have to do a big effort. So some groups will exclude themselves by the simple information you get. I think there's no way to confuse those two. That will be hard. But you might have a difficulty to differentiate, for instance, between fish and snakes, which is possible. Both of them are animals. Both of them have animal qualities, which you find, by the way, on the upper box that belongs to all animals. So the characteristics are instinct, companionship. It's about comparing yourself to the others. It's about hierarchy. It's about pleasure. It's about power. So all these characteristics might belong to all, as they belong to all animals, belong to those two groups. And the issues they talk about, their worries, their fears, their concerns of your patients are fourth row. But then you only have two groups. So if the map can, let's say, while you're doing your consultation, like guide you in the right direction, in the area where you have to look for, and you can forget all the others. You don't have to think about the others anymore. If it's 3D fourth row, must be something there. Same with, for instance, you say, okay, it's a second row issue, and it's 2D for sure, and you're left with only a few choices. You have like the 8 elements in the periodic table. One of them is carbon, of the 8, but then you see carbons, because we have the carbon compounds, and the carbon itself opens like the organic chemistry, which is a whole new group, of a big group in itself. It has carbon qualities, but it has a lot of not only a lot, but almost endless combinations that in the organic carbons. And you also have bacteria, and bacteria are very different from the how do you say, the issues of the elements of the second row from the periodic table, but they have like the same dependency, they have the same mindset, the same insecurities, but then they have a whole different set of presentations. They are focused on disease, they are focused on eating, on growing, on vitality, on health. And you know, your 8 elements from the periodic table will not have their focus there. It's more about how do I live on my own and how can I be a separate being. So that will not be a too difficult differentiation. So the whole idea of the map is, and of course it's a work in progress, is that you see at one glance, okay, this is the continent, I have to search for a remedy. Okay, I know it's a plant. Why? Because the characteristics are in the upper box, the plants. It's about giving, it's about pain, it's about reacting, engaging to the environment, it's about being affected, it's about emotionality, and you know, all that will make your mind go to plant, and then you only have the rows to differentiate. Is it monocot? You have 3 rows to choose from, or is it dicot? And of course, even in dicots, I mean, there's still a lot of possibilities, but that then you can find on the other side of the map, you know, the outside gives some more information on lesser known groups, or where the group is too big to put in that box in the inner map. So for instance, you find the dicotyledons, it's in the left upper box. That means the 6 orders of the flowering plants, the angiosperms, and that's a lot of information. I mean, we have books that thick, you know, of about 1,000 pages only on the angiosperm, so the map is not enough. It's only to make your mind consider this possibility, and then you see from each column or order in the flowering plants what is the key issue. And same with drug qualities, for instance. You know for sure, you don't know for sure what remedy to give. You might have considered a fungi, but then on the other side of the map, the external side, you can find drug qualities, because lots of fungi have drug qualities, but not all of them. So you might think of a fungi, check for the drugs, and then see what your patient actually needs. Same for the mollusk. You find mollusks in the inside. You see it's a second row group belonging to the animals, of course, but you don't know much about mollusks. What about mollusks? Well, I give a few examples of the species, of the substances, because the words inside the map belong to the whole group. And outside, I gave from cases examples where you can maybe make your differential diagnosis already with those key issues. Same with insects. You find insects again on the second row, but you see completely different issues belonging to what kind of group of insects it belongs. So, and then you can compare insects with mollusks, because you see the color is the same, it's orange, means you're on the second row. So the colors will help also. And you know, the right hand side, you see carbons, again, it's orange. And you know, this is all on the same row. Do I need a carbon second dimension? Do I need a mollusk or an insect third dimension? So in my idea, hopefully, this will make like, if you, and you said already, if you work a little bit with it, it's like so self-explanatory. It immediately shows you where you need to look for a remedy or a substance. It doesn't give you the substance per se, but that is not the aim of the map. The map is like, you know, like you go on a treasure hunt and you need a map to know where to dig. That's it. It gives you the continent, it gives you the country. Let's say the country is on your row, and then you're in a group, then it gives you the city. Now, in the city, you have to find your city map. That's what you have to do. But at least it brings you to the right village or city or wherever it is. And there you still have some possibilities, of which you find some on the external of the map. There are some more keywords inside. For instance, maybe that's also important. If you see the inside of the map, it says elements, I, me, my, because that is a little bit of context in your case. That means it's in the upper part, I, me, mine. That means the second dimension person talks exclusively about himself and about his belongings, his concerns, and whatever he considers mine. And that can be my job, my partner, my house, my children, my security, my insurance, my car, whatever. Now, a lot of people, of course, talk about themselves in consultation. That's why they come, and we ask them to talk. But it's with almost the exclusion of everything else and everybody else. That also makes your mind go to second dimension. It's like they're the only ones on their theater of life, and all the rest is background. And of course, they relate with the background, but only when it considers me. So what do I need from them? What do I miss? What do I need? What am I afraid to lose? And there you find the words I can't, I miss, I need, I lose this in order to exist. That means the key words of the elements is can I or can't I? So it's all about capacity. Do I have the capacity to whatever they need? And what they need to exist, that to base their existence on is, being able, having the capacity to live, or having the capacity to develop your identity, to know who you are, to become somebody with a personality, or do I have the capacity to sustain myself? And the periodic table, the first stages will be, I have a very weak foundation, it's very shaky, it's very unstable, I doubt my capacity, I have to train my capacity. And once over the top is, I need this capacity, I lose my capacity, I need to have grip. The capacity to sustain myself in life. And then the same applies to the fifth. I need to perform well, I need to be more effective, I need to do better, because then it's all about doing something special, showing your talents and all that. And the sixth will be about can I perform, and can I live up to my standards? And the standards of the sixth row are very, very high. They are, let's say, superhuman high. So they put themselves under enormous pressure, but still it's always I, me, and mine. It's what is important for them. While if you're in the third dimension, it's about engaging, it's relating. They've seen you, they relate to you, as a homeopath, and that means they always do it, since they do it in your office. They check you, let's say when it's an animal case, they will keep an eye on you, they will wait for the effect they have on you, they will test you if you're smart enough, good enough, attentive enough, whatever, to follow their case. So that's also a kind of relationship, but it's a hierarchical one. While in plants, it's a more an equal one. Are you with me? And that is also something that you find on the map. That the context is also decisive to decide you go this continent or you go this continent. And this is like something that I put in the vertical columns, also in the smaller vertical columns, that from row 2 to 1 to 7, it's about, let's say, a weak ego or no ego at all, developing to a flowering ego. the ego is strong, and in the angiosperms it's flowering. It's there, it's in place. They know who they are. They can say, I feel this, I don't want that. So basically that's the idea. That was the setup, and now I'm adding information, and it's now already a third version, and definitely will come a fourth and a fifth, because I'm working on it as more cases reveal more specifics and more details.
That's great, Anna. And I know that with studying with you, we have these kind of cutoffs, but really the map is the colors blend together. So, like your fish, or, like I just remember you describing how the colors blend. So it's not such big cutoffs like we think.
No.
With actual cases.
Yeah, exactly, because nature doesn't do boxes either. So it's never it's never a cutoff, like here stops this species and there begins another one. There's always an overflow. Always. Yeah. We always have those in-between groups, and we don't know exactly how to define them, because they seem to be half this and half that. Well, that's where they flow the one into the other. And it's the same with patients. It's the same. It's never that sharp division. So that's what I mean with the map. At least in which direction, but it's not like fixed here. It's somewhere here.
Completely. So, this is just such a helpful guide. That's what this map is. It's such a guide, because we have thousands of remedies and it's overwhelming, but this can help so much. Like you said, get on the right continent, then the right country, then the right city, and then you can go from there.
And then you look for the one you need, because if you have to look for the right person on the planet, it will take you forever. You will never find one. But if you need one of those people that walk around in that city, and some specifics, because you have rubrics, right? Your patient will give you rubrics, characteristics, keynotes, whatever. So you know what to look for. At least you know where to look for what. And that makes it more certain that you can find the right remedy. And also, of course, the map is made because there wasn't anything alike. People asked me, where can we find this information of these groups, and how do these groups relate to each other? Well, there's no other way than put them like in a big overview. Because we have lots of information of specialized information on small groups. We have big books on small groups. Well, the groups are never small. I mean, I don't know, 10,000 of insects is not a small group, but I mean in homeopathic analysis, it's one of the many groups of families. Or you have a book on butterflies, that's fine, but how will you ever find a butterfly? If you don't know what to look for, if you don't know, to compare with what.
Just the overall context and how it fits in.
So if it's second or third, is it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7th row? You have to look for at least an area where you can find it. And then you say insect, butterfly must be there, because it is an insect. So in our books we say, okay, it's phosphorus-like. It is phosphorus-like, but it's no mineral. It has no mineral issues. It's just comparable to this archetype that we have. We have an archetype, and that's good. We have phosphor-like people and sulfur-like people and silica-like people, great. But that doesn't mean we have to limit ourselves to those groups. Like it must be some phosphor type. No, it's the idea we have of phosphor make us think of butterflies or the other way around. So that's why it was not there. And also there are a few groups that will never be prescribed unless there are on a map, like celestial bodies will never be prescribed, I'm sure. Artificial human artifacts, and yet we have those remedies. I didn't invent them. I mean, they were around, those remedies. We had the Coca-Cola proving and aspartame proving and mobile phone proving and Berlin Wall and all that. So we have good provings and conducted, years ago, monographies, and then there are the remedies. And how will you ever prescribe them if you only have 3 groups: minerals, plants, and animals? Where does the mobile phone fit in, or the aspartame or whatever? Well, it doesn't. So it's never used. So what's the use of making a proving and then have remedies that nobody will ever use? So I thought we have to find some pointers. We have to study the cases and see if we have a map, what characteristics they are showing. Same with viruses. We do have some provings of viruses, but when and how and to whom would you prescribe a virus, and on the basis of what? So it's also, I think, a help to, for me at least, it was to try to give a place and a relationship to these lesser known groups, that at least they will be considered for your patient. Because you are a very unlucky patient if your homeopath only uses minerals, plants, and animals. All these others, they will never get their remedy. And we have a lot. We have the rocks and stones. We have the sarcodes of all remedies of which we have good provings. We have the imponderables. We have lots of gemstones. Who will ever prescribe a gemstone on the basis of rubrics? I mean, I don't think it will ever happen if you don't know what to look for before you consider a gemstone. So it was also, the endeavor was to give a place to all those remedies that we'll never prescribe because we don't know why and how. And now we have a road to these remedies. Now we have a map to come to at least the place to consider them.
Yeah, perfect. Well, yeah, and it's been incredibly helpful for me, just putting a place on everything and thinking of remedies I've never would have thought before ever, but then it just fits. And that's the perfect remedy prescription, is when it fits on the map and then it fits with your rubric.
Oh yeah.
And then you know what I mean? And everything fits, then you know that you're on the right case.
Absolutely. And also it also reverses a little bit the procedure of analyzing, because often I see when I supervise homeopaths, they start with the details. Like a few good rubrics, and this is important. And I'm not saying they're not important, but the details. And you have to have the general features first, and then go to the details. So the biggest division is the first one that you have to make, and maybe the most important one, second or third. And then the next division is, what row are we on? Then you can start to differentiate and use the rubrics and analyze further. But the other way around, I think it's bound to mislead the homeopath very often, because the symptoms are, the majority of symptoms are expressions. And expressions are, by definition, endless. Because we are all original, we are all unique, so our expressions are also very diverse, to say the least. So many different remedies will have overlapping expressions. That is the rubric. If we find a rubric with 700 remedies, that's an overlapping expression of 700 remedies, or 300, or only 150. That means 150 remedies, of which maybe half of them have nothing to do with each other, no relationship, have overlapping symptoms. How can you ever decide? I know repertorization is combining those, but even combining rubrics, and we see that in our repertorization, give us like 10 to 20 possibilities that might not contain the right remedy. Why? Because the biggest remedies come first. So then you have to interpret it. And how do we interpret it nowadays? We put a filter over it. Well, the filter is the analysis that I would say make that first. Yeah, the filters, for instance, give me only plants. That's fine. Yeah? But it's better when you know 3D plants, angiosperms, and then on the back side of the map you see I need a rosidea. Okay, and then you make your operationalization. So that's the other way around. See what I mean? You
Yeah.
start from the biggest division, and your possibilities become less and less, and fewer, and in the end, there's only a few left.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you make it sound so just, it's so much information, but the map helps so much because it can feel overwhelming. But yes, just like what you said, to bring it down that way and then use your repertories and your rubrics
Yeah,
too, that way instead of
exactly.
the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
because when you repertorize, it's like you get a snake, number one, then sulfur, then, and then,
free
this and
minerals.
this.
Yeah, I know. And then a few names that you cannot even pronounce, that you just, you just don't read them because you don't know what these remedies are. And
Yeah.
I know. And, my mission, I can call it my mission, is to simplify homeopathy. But simplify it, I mean, not leaving out the information, but using the information that is reliable to come to like a simple conclusion, almost like boil it down to its essence, case after case. And I know it's possible because I've seen so many cases that if you analyze it, that you can say, especially in 2D, there's only one sentence. That's the issue. So what's the remedy for that issue? That you can make it that simple. We did a case, I remember, was the scandium case, like I don't know what to do in my life, what kind of work I want to do. Well, that's scandium. There's only one remedy that has this doubt and this work, and I don't know. I don't know what. It's that simple, and not all cases are that simple, but many cases you can boil down to the very essence.
And you know what, Anna, studying with you now, it makes sense. This makes so much sense, and many homeopaths can arrive to the same conclusion with this map, with the cases that we've had and studied. I think oftentimes other people have theories and it's difficult to grasp, or different people have different interpretations, but this is very simple and straightforward. And when you learn it in this way and you look at cases, it makes sense to every single person.
It does, yeah, I know. But I mean, it's not random words. I mean, it's from many years of seeing many cases that I just, let's say, squeeze this out, like this is the juice of it. This is the most important. And even, supervising, and then people say, oh, I don't know, and I have the map, I can't decide, and I don't know if it's 3D or 2D, because the person says this, but also that. And I said, okay, it's exactly what you say, it's gemstone example. You can't decide between a plant and a mineral. What is it? It's simple as that. Almost always, because we think we don't know. Because we have, we trained to complicate things and go into details. But if we think out loud and use our common sense, very often you say, okay, it's that simple. Yes, it is.
Yeah, completely. Well, thank you so much, Anna, and thank you for this. Thank you for the Family Finder that people can use now. And your classes, you have many classes online and books that you've written. So there's so much information out there for people to learn and dive in.
Yeah, there is. And actually, I'm working now on a book, because people ask me for more explanation, and that will like go in details. You have the map, but of course the map is only a reminder. Of course, you see it in one glance, but it's not enough. You need a bit more background information, and then if you have this in the back of your mind, then the map will remind you of all this. And the family finder, if you have it and use it, you click on it, it will immediately show you the cluster of symptoms. But still, it's keywords. So in a book, you can explain a little bit more about the context. I can explain a bit more about the concepts and how I came to the concepts. What is like the reason why this concept is used, and how this context is different from this one. Because my patients, and not my patients, but especially my students, they teach me all of the time by their questions, that I know, I have to be more precise. It's impossible to put all this on a map, but I can be more precise in a book. And since people ask me, well, is there somewhere information that of all these families in homeopathy, instead of buying 20 books, a few on plants and a few on animals and one on mollusks and one on compounds, it will cost you a lot. And it's all specialized. And I said, okay, no, the book is not there. So they insisted I should write it down. So I succumbed.
Well, I am very, very excited for that. And I'm sure a lot of people will be.
Yeah. It's mainly what I tell in my classes, but of course, a book is a different thing, and you can always go back to it and look at a particular chapter and all that. So yeah, I see the usefulness of it.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for teaching all of us and for making this. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
pleasure.
Anna.